And the third actually thing that actually I like to emphasize, here before starting the surah is that the surah and also the surah before has been talking about one important thing, taqwa. Actually, what actually happening is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to make Islam real Islam. Islam with the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Islam with taqwa. That's why very often Quran keeps repeating the word taqwa. Taqwa, muttaqi comes opposite of the kafirin and mushrikeen, because that real Islam is. We people actually believe in the symbols of Islam more than Islam. There is Islam and there is symbols of Islam. People actually are more concerned about the symbols rather than Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not reward people anything because of symbols. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the real Islam from the people, not symbols. Understand this properly. And now look at really most Muslim movements of the reform. They have got certain symbols. If you are use those symbols, you belong to that group. For example, if you are in, I have, friends, relations, people, in most of the organization, and I love them because they are doing so many things good. But at the same time, we also have to improve ourselves. So, for example, if you know Jamaat Islami Pakistan, India, the main concern all the time actually is Islamic State. If you talk about that, then you belong to that group. And rest of the life, people are not concerned how to do. If you use those vocabulary, you belong to that group. How your prayers are, how your fasting are, how your life in the night, how much fear if you have got thereafter, it is not such important thing. As long as you use those symbols, you belong to them. In India, if you put topi, hat or kurta pajama like that, you are Muslim. That we are concerned. So if somebody walks in the street without kurta pajama, so we don't think he's proper Muslim. If somebody more pious than me, if he puts on trouser and Western dress properly, and he has more fear of Allah, he does prayer more than me, but people still would think I am better than him, because symbols have got more importance in our life than the real Islam. Though actually Western dress, it's any dress, and if you read properly, there's no difference between this one and that one. Or maybe people want to prefer one over the other. It is the preference only can be awla or ghair awla. Though actually you don't follow that, but many people think if you pray with the topi, it is better. If you follow that opinion, it's still just different. But just think really, there are something which is more important than that. If you pray with the remembrance of Allah khushu, that is more important. If somebody has no topi, but he has more khushu than you, that he is nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we people more believe in the symbols rather than Islam. Symbols of Islam have become more important than Islam itself. We have made certain symbols. They are part of our identity, our belonging. We belong to certain group. We want that. For example, if you belong to Barelvi group, what is more important for you is Eid Miladun Nabi. If you celebrate Eid Miladun Nabi, you are from them. If you don't come to any prayer, it doesn't matter. As long as you come on the 12th of Rabiul Awwal in the mosque and big celebration, and the 15th of Shaban and this and that, few nights, few days, so you are from them. If somebody prays 5 times a day in the same mosque, they have no importance for that person. These things have become more important for them than the prayer. Why? Because that is their identity. That is their identity. We have taken certain symbols, certain identity to define the Islam. Allah and His Messenger don't like identities. Allah and the Messenger, they look for Islam, not symbols of Islam. They look the real taqwa, they don't look for the identities. This actually understand properly. There was a Hindu in India, one of the Muslim, he gave him a copy of the Qur'an, and he read the Qur'an. And then he asked him, bring me the other Qur'an. So this Muslim thought maybe he's more interested now, he wants another copy to give someone else. So he brought another copy of the Qur'an. And then he said, no, it is the same Qur'an. And I want the Qur'an on which Muslim act, not this Qur'an. The Qur'an of Muslims, the Qur'an that Muslims follow. So you see, if you read this Qur'an really, and you look at Muslims, you can see this is not the Qur'an of Muslims. This is not the book of Muslims. We Muslims don't make the Qur'an our ideal. Every single thing is actually our ideal. You can see that Sufis, their ideal is Ihya Ulumuddin, this book, that book. If you are Hanafi, we read Hidayah and this book, that book. If you are Shafi, we have our own manual. If you are a Maliki, this thing, and then we think this is fine for us. Who reads the Quran then? What purpose of the Quran? Why Quran has come? Why Quran has come less important than any other book? Every book, everything has become more important than the Quran. If people want guidance, they go to this book, that book. But what Quran is? What purpose of the Quran? Understand this properly, because we are basically more interested in the identity. We are more interested in the belonging. We are more interested, in the symbols. We are not interested in the real Islam, the taqwa party. Understand actually there are many people who we think they are not important. In the eye of Allah, they are more important. And many people who we think really they're more pious because the topi or the turban, maybe in the eye of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are not so important. Because Allah does not look at these things. Inna Allah la yanzuru ila suwarikum. Allah does not look at your shapes and your forms. وَلَكِنَّهُ يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ. Allah looks at your hearts. He looks in the hearts of the people. He does not look at the forms of people, how they look. He looks at what is in their heart. And that the Qur'an said, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. When you make a sacrifice of an animal, so the blood of the animals or the meats of the animal, they don't go to the heaven, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What goes is your fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that what matters.